You are watching All About Alpena. All About Alpena is produced by Alpena Marketplace Productions, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. daily. Visit us often on the web at www.allaboutalpena.com. Once there, you can email us with your thoughts, concerns, questions, and of course we have our updated schedule there. Or feel free to call us at 354-2295. For your viewing pleasure, this broadcast of the Municipal Council meeting of Alpena is made possible by the funding provided by the City of Alpena. Thank you for your generosity.
June 3rd, 2013. Call the order, please.
Eiler.
Here.
Nielsen. Here. Noah.
Here.
Sexton.
Here.
Walagora.
Here. All rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone had the opportunity to read the minutes for the regular session May 20th and closed session of May 20th. Corrections? Modifications to the agenda. The engineer would like to pull the 10C1 portable sewer inspection bid for some, they need to do a little bit more study on that before they present it to us.
C.
That's the only modification I know of. I'd entertain a motion to do that.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Noah.
Yes.
Sexton.
Yeah.
Walagora.
Aye.
Eiler.
Yes.
Okay. Citizens appearing before City Council on agenda and non-agenda items are allowed 5 minutes each to address their concerns. This is the only time during a council meeting that citizens are allowed to approach address council. If you do so, please come to the podium, state your name and address for our records.
Good evening, I'm Valerie Dealey. Address is 321 West Miller Street. Good evening. I come to you representing the Dealey family. And on Memorial Day, we attended a picnic at McCray Park with six other families. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but McCray Park is used by many, many families all during the week and weekends. Now, I don't know if you're also aware that McCray Park is owned by the City of Alpena and is leased to the McCray Park Association, who takes care of the building and lawns. And the Alpena Little League takes care of the ball diamonds and runs a snack bar and has restrooms, but only during the games, which is where our problem came in. We had no idea of this. And so when we got there, we were all eating and having a really great time. And my sister, who's 71 and a half years old and has COPD, says, where are the restrooms? There aren't any. So we had enough people for 2 baseball teams. Everybody wanted to play baseball. I'm an observer. My brother-in-law has had 3 surgeries this year, major surgeries. And he's 76. He was a pitcher, believe it or not. A few high balls, but he's rooting for the team. And I can't understand why so many parks in Alpena have outhouses, and I was told that, well, it's not a regular park. I don't understand why they can't have an outhouse at McCray Park. I mean, unless you rent the hall, you can't use the restroom. And we had 3 carpool of kids going to the restroom at my niece's. I think that is outrageous. I mean, this was a spur of the moment thing because we have so many people in our family that have weird schedules. And I mean, I'm fairly broken. I can't just go and do stuff. So I'd like to request a handicap outhouse be placed at the park. I don't know what I have to do other than, do I get to just request?
That's all you gotta do.
Consider it, or
You just did it.
I did it?
That's it. Yep. We'll
Great.
take a look. We'll take a look at
We'll
that.
discuss it at staff meeting tomorrow.
Wow,
See.
cool.
See if
So when do we find out if it can happen?
can we get a porta-john over there?
Yeah, it's just a matter of scheduling with our contractor. But I think we need to discuss the full operation at McCray Park
Okay.
tomorrow as well, so.
All right.
Yay. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
We'll take a look. Thank you.
very much.
I'm sorry, I can't stay for the rest of the meeting.
Oh, that's all right. Drive you bored to death, I suppose.
So I planned it right.
All right. Okay. Any announcements this evening? The consent agenda is bills to be allowed. Holiday Inn request for noise variance from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. on July 25th, 2013 to host an event for the Harley Owners Group. C is Alpena Blues Coalition noise variance from 12 a.m. Saturday, June 22nd until 12 a.m. Sunday, June 23rd for the Alpena Blues Festival. And D, budget amendment to transfer $2,000 from the ambulance department to the IT department for the purchase of a Toughbook computer.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Noah,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Walagora,
Aye?
Island,
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
No proclamations this evening, there's no public hearing. Report of officers, first reading of ordinance number 13424, rezoning of Alpena Community College property.
Okay, I'll be handling that.
Okay.
At its regular meeting on Tuesday, May 14th, the Alpena City Planning Commission by a vote of 7-0 recommended approval of the rezoning of property on the east side of Woodward Avenue, south of Hamilton Road, approximately 160 acres, from the current R2 one-family residential to I2 general industrial. The property is owned by Alpena Community College. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the 2000 North Sub-Area Plan that was developed by the city in partnership with ACC, the Besser Company in Alpena Township. Later in 2005, ACC developed its own, or updated its master plan based on that city North Sub-Area Plan, and it calls for industrial development in this area. And if we look at this map, this is from the college document, but it's actually a page out of the North Sub-Area Plan that was done back in 2000. Now, also, later in 2007, we approved a new comprehensive plan that basically called for mixed-use development in all this area. But the intent was, if you look at it, is that all that college property, and their plan actually covers more than just the area north of the railroad tracks, does show it as mixed use from anywhere from residential to some types of potential office, commercial, to recreation, and then even industrial. So All of it is to be geared around the mission of the college, because that's a requirement under the grant of the land by Bessie Jesser, I didn't think I said that right. How about
was
Jesse
pretty cool.
Besser
Okay.
instead of Bessie Jesser? Jesse Besser and also the Besser Foundation. At least I caught it.
We knew what you meant.
I wasn't sure what I did, if I knew what I did. Included in the college's mission is the intent for ACC to play a significant role in the economic development efforts of Alpena and Northeast Lower Michigan. To that end, the college has pursued a policy that supports the development of new and the expansion of existing high-technology research and development and manufacturing businesses. These may be spin-offs of existing and future ACC curriculum programs or businesses that may utilize those programs to foster the development and growth of their companies. Such a linkage between academics and product service commercialization has been successfully demonstrated over the past decade at the college's World Center for Concrete Technology. This rezoning is a first step, and I need to emphasize, a first step of many in the college's use of its extensive holdings for this purpose. During the meeting, there were several township residents who abut or are across the street from the property, and if you do look, this, of course, this is Hamilton Road at the top, and in fact, it might be a little easier. This is the property itself. This is Hamilton Road up here. This area, you can't really see the arrow very well, but here at the southwest corner of Long Lake Avenue, which abuts the property on the east side, and Hamilton Road, residents there plus a resident from on Hamilton Road were at the meeting and it expressed concern regarding the rezoning. And you do have a copy of a petition signed by neighbors within the township. The reason they're off of the township is that there are no residences within the city right around there. All the ACC land has no residences on it. The only thing on the ACC property, and you can see it there at the very, just to the left of the red line, you see the driveway going back, that is the Huron Humane Society, their shelter. That's the only development on the ACC property at all. Their concern, basically twofold for the most part, being one, that there are wetlands, which I have no doubt there are on that site. Driving by, you could see it in the type of vegetation that's there, plus the ditches were full and it was back in there. And just experience of other land in that area, that there are going to be wetlands. A lot of it the result of the fact that you have rock very close to the surface, traps water, creates those conditions. The other is simply the general character of that area, which is very kind of rural, wooded, natural, and that could change. That is certainly understood by both staff and the planning commission, but they looked at it in terms of the comprehensive plans that had been developed and what the intended uses were and are being proposed that do fit in with the college's mission, which is why this land was donated in the first place. The other is they're a long ways from being able to develop it. One, they will have to deal with any wetland issues, and those can be major if wherever there are wetlands, that they'll have to deal with the MDEQ on. We've had to do it on some of our various properties. You're familiar with it up with panel processing, and the city was involved with that up at the North Industrial Park, so they're there. The other is there's no infrastructure to this site right now. Woodward Avenue, north of the tracks to Hamilton Road, is a gravel. There's no sewer and water. Now, obviously, all those have to be in place before you could ever get any kind of industrial development. Additionally, whatever they want to do there will have to have an ultimate approval by the Besser Foundation and, of course, the College Board of Trustees as well. Again, on the infrastructure, we estimated, I think Rich did a few years ago, is about $3 million to put in street, sewer, and water. The biggest problem, again, is you have rock, so there's a lot of going through rock in order to place the sewer and the water. So it is not an inexpensive proposition. So, and that's not going to occur unless you do have a project and the whole thing is kind of packaged together. So they have many steps and hurdles to go through. the view of the planning commission and staff was that this was the first step. Get it in place. They will have many more. They will also have all our zoning ordinance, development standards to comply with for things such as setbacks, screening from the adjacent property owners, issues of light. And then, of course, they do have anything of the heavy industrial nature or general industrial, we require, for many of those, a special land use permit, which requires a public hearing, plus there could be permits from either the DEQ, EPA, basically through the DEQ as well. So there are many hurdles to go through. If it's more of a research development, it may not require a lot of those because they probably will fall in more under the light industrial, which have lesser standards, but still all the setback requirements and all those other standards will be in place and will have to be adhered to. So with all those issues, the feeling was that it made sense to at least allow them this step so that they can continue to proceed. Also, last fall, the city did apply for and receive conditional approval for smart zone designation in the city. And ACC was a part of that application, and they're looking at this type of development of fitting in with that smart zone designation. And so, again, by rezoning, it gets them one step further as they go through the multiple steps of being able to implement what they see as their vision for that synergy between academics and commercialization of new technologies. And a lot of what they're looking at is more in the alternative energy field. There may be others as well, but that's one very, the strongest one that they're tied in with. So the commission, after hearing the concerns of the residents, still felt that this was just a first step of many, that there were a lot of safeguards that would be in place to protect the surrounding property owners, and they went ahead and voted 7-0. You have before you the ordinance, and what is being requested is that you would have Bill do first reading on that tonight, and then at the next meeting, there would be second reading, and then you would have to take the actual vote on the rezoning. If you have any questions, be happy to address those. I'm not sure, is there somebody here from the college? Yes, in the back representing the college, if you have any questions of ACC.
How many acres is that parcel?
160. It's basically roughly about 40-acre parcels.
Greg, since the subject property doesn't appear to be within the city limits, why are we?
No, it is within the city.
Oh, it is?
All the land that ACC owns is within the city of Alpena.
I thought it might be because the main part of the college itself is there.
No,
This
no,
is-
all of this is within the
We
city.
go up to Hamilton Road?
Yes, on that side of the road we do. On the other side, you can see some residences there to the left of the red line there. Those are in the township. There's a sliver of land that comes down, and there's, I think, a couple homes on the west side of Woodward. Those are in the township. And then there's a home or two on the south side of Hamilton, west of Woodward, and those are also in the township. But all of the college land is within the city. So if we go back to the zoning map, actually, which I think is this one, yes. This is all of this R2 is college property, all within the city. And all of this OS1 you see here is also college property within the, well, not 100%, most of it. There's some where the Pied Piper is things of that, up there at Wilson and Henry. But most of this OS1 is also college property as well. But this is the boundary right here. This area in here is township, part of which has the soccer fields on them down here. But this area is all city. This area is township, that 40-acre parcel in the corner. And then, of course, everything north of Hamilton and east of Long Lake Avenue, that's all township.
Thank you.
Greg, if, okay, R2 doesn't work out, I2 doesn't work out, it will automatically revert to I-1?
No.
Or,
No, once we rezone it, the only way to change a zoning is to rezone it again.
okay,
It is a permanent, goes with the land, action by the council. The reason it's all R2 right now isn't because it was intended for residential use. The college for a long time really didn't know what they really wanted to do with that land north of the tracks. What we used that for in the city was simply a holding district. It was the least intensively used. At the time, we didn't have a parks or a conservation, and we wouldn't use that anyways, but of the zones that allow development, R2 or R1 are the most restrictive. So we put it in that as a holding zoning district until such time as the college developed its plans and then actually came before us with zoning changes. That way, any of those changes would require public hearings.
if you, let's say it winds up being I-2,
Yes.
can you use R2 or any other residential as a buffer? Some of that land as a buffer, if you needed to?
They could, but there's plenty of land there where we can create, plenty of buffer, yes.
Okay.
And I have the feeling, at least some of it that I saw along Long Lake Avenue, just south of that property, that 40 acres that's in the township, it looked pretty wet. That they're not gonna be building on top of anybody. They're gonna be set back. And that can all be worked out. Yes, I guess we could have left areas of that as R2 as a buffer. The only trouble is then technically by zoning, that creates another setback, because you do have, I don't have it in front of me, but there is a sizable setback requirement from residential anyways. And that would include residential that's outside of the city. That's not just for the zoning inside the city.
The residents that were at your planning commission
Yeah.
meeting, I noticed that none of them came here. Do you feel that they were?
They were
somewhat-
notified, it was stated
Right,
that
but
it
were they
is.
somewhat satisfied by would you get that impression or no?
No, they would prefer that it not be rezoned, that it be left basically in the state that it is in, and I understand that. But this is the college's property, and as long as we can provide protections for them, which I feel we can, and a lot of it, we'll have to see what develops out of this. It could be that nothing develops out of it, or it could be that there will be, and we'll have to work around the issues of the wetlands and setbacks and things of this sort. But no, I wouldn't say they went away with, feeling, accepting the situation. It was not what they wanted. And we understood that.
But not to the extent that they didn't come here. I guess that was kind of the point, that they didn't.
There's not that many of them.
No, there were
Doesn't
a
affect
couple,
that many residents.
yeah, there were a couple that showed up, and I think there's probably 12, 13 signatures on
thing.
the, which are pretty much probably most of the property owners that would have bought.
Well, and it is within a rezoning, once there is a use proposed, there's always the opportunity to say no at that point.
Certain ones, if they're permitted by right, they're permitted, it's just now you gotta meet all the standards. So there would be no other public hearings necessarily, but others, many of them in that district are gonna require special land use permits, which would require a public hearing from the planning commission, and they'll have to meet standards.
Need a motion?
Well, at this point, it'd just be for Bill to do first reading, and then we'll have second reading and the vote at the next meeting.
We do need
Practice, Jay.
any other issues you want to look at before we? Okay.
I didn't practice in front of the mirror, but I'll do my best. This ordinance number 13-424 is an ordinance of the City of Alpena, Michigan, providing that the Code of Ordinances of the City of Alpena be amended by modifying and revising ordinance number 392 of said code. Be it ordained by the Municipal Council of the City of Alpena, State of Michigan as follows. The zoning ordinance of the City of Alpena, being ordinance number 392, establishing zoning districts, schedule of regulations, and zoning map, is hereby amended and revised in the following manner. The zoning classification of the following described parcels hereby changed from R2, one-family residential, to I2, general industrial, and the legal description is contained in the proposed ordinance. The parcel is located on the east side of Woodward Avenue and the west side of Long Lake Avenue, south of Hamilton Road, in the city of Alpena. The provisions of this ordinance shall take effect 10 days after being adopted by the municipal council and duly published. This is first reading, and it will come back.
There's one mistake in there that when I was doing this, the date at the end says 2011. We will change that before you do final reading to 2013. I took another zoning ordinance and missed that, so I apologize.
All right, thank you. 10B is the treasurer's financial report from July 1, 2012 to April 30th, 2013. You were all set with that, that's all right?
Yes.
Our report is through April 30th, and we should be at about 83% of our budget. Revenue's at 91.85, and expenses are about 76.49, so that's good. We're where we need to be. I don't have too much to say just because we've been going through the budget the last couple meetings. I did report at the last council meeting that we were seeing some positive impacts to our budget, such as workers' comp insurance came back down. City pension contributions both came down, and our state revenue sharing increased. And we did just have word that the state may increase our local government EVIP, which is our Economic Vitality Incentive Program, by about 4.8%. So the city of Alpena receives approximately $300,000 from that, just that EVIP portion. So that would be about $14,500 more in revenue. So if we can just work our way back up. Are there any questions on that? Okay.
Good report.
Thank you.
Could I have a receive and file on that?
That'd be good.
So moved.
Second.
Sexton?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye.
Eiler?
Yes.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Millwall?
Yes.
Communications and petitions. We have the Alpena Farmers Market request for approval of changes to the market side behind the market site behind City Hall. So JB kind of come up and present.
Hello, I'm JB Cook, I'm the president of the Alpena Farmers Market. I guess I'd just like to first just kind of update you where the farmers market's at this point. Last time we had talked, we were just opening the winter farmers market. That was in October. We just planned to be open until probably December, but it was a very great success. We had more and more vendors showing up for that. By the end, we probably had 15, 20 different vendors that were coming to the market. We now have our own farmers market band. The Thunder Bay Ramblers is coming down there every Saturday now. We also started an events center down in the indoor market. We hope to continue that throughout the summer too. We had different people come in and put on educational events, like Dr. Stivetts came in and talked to us about growing plants under grow lights and starting plants indoors. We had Tom's Healthy set up a display down there to talk about how to recycle in Alpena. So those are the kind of things we'd like to kind of continue and do some events, educational things at the market. And some of the proposals that we're presenting to you, I guess, are to further that same project. We opened the farmers market outside May 25th, a month earlier than we normally would because of the intermarket partly. We normally would start with 5 different vendors probably to start with in the middle of June. We started probably with 15 different vendors down there with the open day. So the winter market is really, has grown the market a lot. So we'd like to continue that. And we also are going to be doing we've applied for bridge cards. We're going to be doing bridge cards at the farmers market, and which will be basically accepting food stamps at the market. And we'd like to make a facility down at the farmers market to do that. And we also need, in order to do bridge cards, the cheapest way to do a bridge card, have an EBT card reader down there, is to have a direct phone line to the market structure. So we'd like to actually get a phone line placed at the market, and then and to cover that, we're going to have this will be a lockable phone line, so we can be able to get into it. We'd also like to make a facility over top of that phone line, a temporary facility over top of the phone line to house our EBT card machine and also house some of our signs and different things to support the market down there. And then to raise money, you know, we have the Friends of the Farmers Market that the group, it's a nonprofit group that is actually in the process of applying for 501c3 status. We'd like to have a portable structure for that down at the market. And I think you guys have gotten some of the enclosures with pictures of some of the with our model over here. That shows how that would kind of generally be set up. These are 10 by 10 modules that will be it'll be taken away in the winter months. Just be down there in the summer, probably from May till maybe the end of October. And they actually fit together, and they will form a roof structure and follow the lines of the current market structure. They are in white there, but they would have a green and white roof. That's how we would envision it. Green and white roof, similar materials, and then we have to figure out how we want to design the structures themselves yet. But we have I think we have a picture included there of a more kind of deluxe model. That would be the EBT card reader's booth, which would be actually a lockable facility. The other one would be more of an open facility, because I think we don't want to promote too much down there after hours activity. Some of the people that use it afterwards at nighttime. So some of these would actually be more open, and we may actually have a stamp on covers or drapes to keep the wind out when we need it. It would just be a temporary thing. We still are in the process of designing those. I guess we're going to get your approval first before we go forward with more of a formal design. So we have the two front structures on that. One would be the EBT card reader booth. The other one would be the Friends of the Farmers Market, where we would sell our buttons and T-shirts and promote the farmers market. On the opposite end, we have 4 of the modules which would fit together, which would create a 20 by 30 more of an open space. They wouldn't be enclosed structures. They'd be just an open floor pan basically there. Our band would be able to be in a sheltered area. We could put on these educational events down there. It also provides a sheltered area for when the Thunder Bay Transportation drops off people, the seniors that get free rides down there, can sit and wait for the bus to pick them up. So,
Sorry, go ahead.
And then the last thing is we just like to change the front, the way people enter the farmers market. In a temporary way as well. Right now, there's actually traffic that goes right by the front of the farmers market, and people to go to park for the farmers market. We'd like to block off just in front of the entrance. That would do 2 things. It would obviously make it safer. People walking to the market wouldn't have to walk through. You wouldn't have to worry as much about traffic. It would also create a little bit more space for vendors down there to set up. We probably would have enough for 4 more stalls in the front of the farmers market. To be set up outside of the existing canopy. And those, I guess, those were the main things. I guess I wanted.
You had the harbor, or the Park Place closure.
Right, and then we have the two main events that we typically do every year is the Community Rummage Sale and Antiques Day. That is going to be August 10th, and then the Kids Day, which is September 28th. We would like to just block off Park Place for those events. It makes it more safe. It makes it safer for Kids Day because we don't want traffic going through there when we have our hay rides and dropping kids off, and then we have the ambulance and fire truck down there. So we typically block off that each year, and then we have the rummage sale day. We would actually like to close it off in case we have overflow of people that want to participate in that day. We already have 20 people signed up, which is more than I used to. I'm not in charge of it this year, but I used to be in charge of it. I've never had that many people sign up this early. And I think we'll have probably at least 20, 30 people sign up to do that, and then beyond the farmers market vendors.
Okay. Let's work backwards.
Okay, there's a lot of stuff there.
Let's work backwards and start with the road closure. Park Place is the street between the farmer's market and the Harborside Mall?
Yes.
And that's just for 2 days, so you would,
2 days from, would be closed from like 7 to 2, basically, so.
so you would typically just file with
And
the,
that would be from basically that drive into Harborside Mall that's closest to Harbor Drive. It wasn't the entire street all
No,
the way
it's not
back
entire-
to First.
No, we won't be parking off, we won't be closing off the parking going to, the shopping center.
so just between their 2 driveways, basically?
Yeah.
Between the
From
mall,
there, yeah.
between the mall's
Only
2
driveway
driveways?
we will be actually blocking off would be
The VA clinic, and I believe they're closed on Saturdays, so that would not be an issue. So it would only be from Harbor Drive back until you hit that first driveway going into the mall itself. Coming back from,
So you,
Harbor Drive.
but you would be closing off one of their driveways?
no, well, only the one to the VA.
And
That's
actually,
the only one.
I think they actually have another one into that parking lot, even if
Into
they
the-
close up the one, they
goes
still have
into
one
the
entrance.
parking lot.
There's
I think
actually
there's
two
another
there's
one
two
on Harbor
entrances.
Drive itself, but that would be the only one that would be closed off.
But that would be something that they would just petition staff with for close?
Well,
would-
they're asking for permission to do that, and I don't think, you've done this before, you said?
We've done the Kids Day. I don't think I've really closed off the Rummage Sale.
But you have closed that part of the street
Yes.
off before,
Okay.
so it's not unheard of, and it will not block any of the entrances into the mall proper.
That would be my only concern, I guess, is the entrances into the mall there. So does that need action from us now, or is that something, do we typically,
If they've done it before and council supports it, we can just do it administratively.
could you do that for other, like the downtown block party and stuff, right? That
Right, yes, we've done those before, so.
I would think it'd be pretty similar to that, because we don't come,
We'll just handle that internally.
Is that
More
all right?
for your
Is
information,
everybody
yes.
okay with that?
We'll get it out to the police, fire department, the usual that we have, they'll review it, as long as we have no issues with it, then we'll get the approval
I think that's fine.
and handle it. If they need barricades, they can work with DPW on that.
Okay.
And I haven't been down there for those events, you do get a lot of pedestrian traffic in that road. We've had fire trucks parked out there before, you know, for.
It's probably a benefit to the mall as well, so
Oh,
that's
yes.
probably why we've never heard from them. And then, so that's done. Now heading back to closing off basically just that, it's not even a street, it's just, you're talking about the center pathway,
Yeah, between
not the
right-
ones by the mailboxes, but where you pay your water bill, but the middle one, there's a pass through that parking lot.
And all they're asking to close off is just right there where at that end of the farmer's market, the drive cuts through there, that would be the only part. So the two access points, one on Water Street, one on Park Place, would still be open. They just wouldn't be allowed to cut through all the way across. And that has created issues in terms of safety, so it would only be done on, what is it, Thursday?
Wednesdays and
Wednesday and then Saturday
Just
morning.
a
Okay,
temporary
so,
barricade.
and you're not even, so people will still be able to come in those to park, they just won't be able to cross between right in front of your building?
Right, they'll have-
Okay.
they'll have to go, they won't, they'll have to kind of drive around it,
Right.
park on one side.
And those barricades will only be up during,
During that.
when they're operating, otherwise they'll be removed, so then traffic can't pass.
That makes sense to me. You gotta have action on that one, or?
No,
Is there a-
that one doesn't require, that we'll just do internally.
We're good so far.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. The structures, are, so the model is right. If you just took the model and set it back behind us.
This would be Harbor Drive.
That would be Harbor Drive on this
this
end.
side.
I know Greg talked to you a little bit about the trees that are on that end. I drove through there on my way to the meeting, and those trees are like right there. But I assume being a farmer's market and being caring of
We might have to trim,
living
we
plants,
might
you're
have
not
to trim
gonna.
one branch
To
off.
trim the branch
Yeah,
off a
there's
little,
one- There's one, but they're 10 by 10 structures, so they will fit in there.
And it'll stay on that curb thing?
We'll have to go over top of the curb a little bit, make a stand on one corner of the building.
Okay.
I don't think we want to wreck the curb structure. You have to repave that corner, that curb.
Cause you have the farmer's market building, and then there's a curb sticking out, with some vegetation on it. And then you immediately have that pass-through drive that goes through there. Your part of your building isn't gonna hang out, that people might clip it during the week.
No, it won't hang out into the street.
Oh, it won't?
It'll hang out into there's two, curves that go into, that kind of funnel into the entrance of the farmer's market.
Yeah.
We'll have to set the building, outside of that curve. If you look at the front entrance, we'll have a temporary leg basically to the building.
Okay, but not in.
So instead of a curve, it'll be more of a straight, entrance.
That's that ramp.
Right,
Yeah,
but-
it goes into the.
But not out into,
No, no.
if this cardboard were the curb
No.
this way, not out this
No.
way.
Maybe do those structures need secured into the lot?
They will actually be attached right directly to the market structure, which is pretty hefty to begin
So
with.
you're not gonna be going into the parking lot?
No, those are grass spots that they're gonna be sitting on basically right now. We could make some type of a secure footing in that they could go into the grass, but they actually will be attached. On this end, they'll be attached, well, both ends, they'll be attached to the metal beams of the market structure. And they attached, on the other end, they'll be attached actually to themselves. So, and to the structure itself.
On the staff, we have not issues, but just two things that we would need to have. One would be that structural, how it is attached, to make sure it's secure, so a good, gust of wind or a heavy wind doesn't send it moving somewhere, so that it is secure. And that, they'll have to work with Don Gilmet, the building official, to make sure that it is going to be stable and secure, because we don't want any damage or anybody being hurt because of that. The other is the materials that it's made out of, that we'd like to see those final ones, so that we know that it fits in with the downtown and looks good. We do have design standards within the downtown. We know this is temporary, so it's not gonna be we're not gonna have the same standards, but we do wanna make sure that it's a good fit in with the downtown and with the area that it's in. So, those would be the only two things that we'd want to, be able to, have input in on both of those. One would be an absolute requirement regarding it being secured, because we cannot have it where these things can be conceivably blown over or blown away.
And the phone line will be in the ones nearest the city hall, this end where there's two?
Yeah, in the one to the, we're thinking to the left, just to the left of the entrance.
And the farmer's market or the Friends of the Farmer's Market are gonna cover the cost for having that put in, or how's
Yes,
that gonna work?
we've contacted Frontier Communication. Yeah, it's a $30 a month charge to have a permanent phone line down there. And then the installation, I don't know exactly what that costs. It's at least $60 to install it. I don't know, we talked about going underground. Rich said to do that underground. I don't know what the costs of that are gonna be. I'm gonna meet with them on the 5th here to get those estimates.
JB, technically, you're not gaining any vending space, but I guess the philosophy is you're not gonna use up vending space.
Well, we will be in,
Some of these
by
activities.
putting the Friends of the Farmers Market outside, we potentially could, that'll free up some space, because the Friends of the Farmers Market actually is under the canopy right now. So that'll create one space there potentially, if we don't use it for something else. And then the other end, we might be able to put somebody underneath it, maybe one vendor or something. We may get a couple extra vending spaces on it. And the entrance will, blocking out the entrance, that will create four spaces.
And I appreciate that you've taken the leap with the bridge cards. It's gotten to be something that's helped a lot of communities. It gives people access to fresh fruit and vegetables, and certainly helps your vendors as well. So that's a good idea.
Next year, we'll be actually able to apply for the double food box too, or people that have bridge cards that can actually get double their dollar, instead of, they get $2 for every dollar that they spend on produce actually too.
Instead of Twinkies or whatever.
Yeah.
Are you concerned at all with the security of that EBT machine and whatever you have to lock up?
Well, this EBT machine can actually be taken off-site. It will go away with us. In the phone line, if that structure isn't there, we'll actually have a lockable box. Thunder Bay Electric is gonna do a box for us, I guess, after it gets the phone line in there. And if it's actually inside that building too, there's double protection for it, so.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of other concerns. The plans that you guys had before are they, is this while you wait for funding for those plans, or are they with the wall, movable walls and the things, the different things that you had before, or is this?
This is kind of
Kind of,
what we're gonna do at this point, I think.
okay.
The movable walls, the retractable walls, and everything else.
Okay.
Can't put shelf that, right up.
No, it may be in the future, but right now, this is, and we've got, we needed something for the EBT card, and the events, we thought those were more critical. This is a temporary thing. I know there was concerns with more permanent structures down there and different things, and, this is a temporary thing that can, we can do at this point, so.
Yeah, okay. You seem to be working fine with staff to make sure that everything is all taken care of, so. Anybody else got any other concerns or questions? Do you need action on that as well? or-
I think we at least just like council approval or support of those temporary structures. Then they can work with Don and Rich to make sure that, they've done in accordance with code.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Alright.
Walagore,
Aye.
Isler.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Noah.
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
Thank you, JB.
Thank you.
Okay, unfinished business is rate analysis, water and sewer for city customers. Rich?
Just, all I want to do is just, at this point in time, bring you up to date on some issues that have transpired regarding this, and then ask any question, if there's any questions of council on this. Greg Sundin and I have been in communication with Jim Young, who was partner with Gosling Zubek on the rate study. And I believe when we did that presentation before, we referenced that it would be our intent to continue to work with Jim Young as our rate attorney in any future negotiations with the township. So we have been in contact with him, and we will be meeting with him tentatively on June 7th, June 18th, to develop basically a strategy as we move forward into negotiations with the township. We'll also begin working on setting up a meeting, an initial negotiation session with the Alpena Township personnel so that we can move forward with that. Though a couple of things that did come up in our discussions with Jim was that it was a question that was posed by one of the council members, was whether we should basically go through bang the gavel, adopt rates in advance of the negotiations. And basically it was Mr. Young's opinion that as long as council was in support of the rationale that staff had assembled and not necessarily saying we're gonna select this rate, but you agree with the need for an increase, the need for an increase of somewhere in the magnitude of what we were proposing, but that you basically agreed with the concept of it, that was sufficient. Then we could move forward with him working in negotiations, and it basically became a tool that he could use in the process. The other thing that we are, I guess we request of council was, during this not negotiations, but the strategy session on June 18th, if city council wishes to have a representative there, or the mayor wishes to appoint a member of council to participate in that strategy session, from provide any input from council during that, we would welcome that. It's also our intention that we will be updating council on a regular basis in closed session as far as the status of any negotiations as we do move forward. But if council is interested in having, I shouldn't say representative, having one of the council members or two of the council members participate in that strategy session, we would be more than happy to have those participate. Right now, it's set up for basically 10 o'clock in the morning on June 18th. Till whenever. Excuse me, before 5.
Yes.
Greg has made it very clear that he likes being married, he wants to get home for his anniversary, so.
We'll be done but we set aside the whole day if that's what we need, starting at 10. And he is available for that entire time if necessary.
And we will be bringing a contract to council with regard to utilizing his services. Mr. Young will be assembling that document and forwarding it to us, and we hope to have it for the next council meeting.
Part of what his rationale would be in terms of, as we move ahead with negotiation, is that it isn't necessary that we have a rate set. However, as Rich said, not only, the concept of the methodology, which I think that was presented at the last meeting, which I think, at least in my opinion, is a sound methodology for doing that, but at least having some kind of base number that we're working at. And I know the one that we were proposing, at least as of right now, was the one that created roughly around 1.67 million in capital, which had a $5 charge for the
$10 total.
Right, $5 for each water and sewer ready to serve charge, and then all the numbers were based on that. Now, obviously, we're not asking that you approve it, but what we'd like is that there's agreement on that concept, kind of around that number, and that may fluctuate depending upon, obviously, how negotiations, but at least it would be apparent that this is a basic rate structure that the city is prepared to adopt as part of this whole process, obviously with the final numbers depending on what the results of the negotiations are. The idea being is that once we negotiate, then both would agree or would have to adopt rates at that point in time. That would, hopefully, the plan is that they would go into effect then January 1st of next year.
And basically, we have an agreement to continue the rates that we presently charge through January.
Yeah, through December 31st. So the goal would be to get the,
Everything finished up.
right, have everything finished up and rates all approved before then so they can go into effect the beginning of next year. Whatever that final rate determination is.
Staff is, and also if you have any questions on what was presented last time, if you've had a chance to look at further. I know that there was some email questions that were emailed back and forth, and I think we've tried to respond to those, the city council members as far as what the impacts from those would be.
There's a lot of things being tossed out. I think it would be a good idea to go back a couple of minutes to have a council representative at the meeting with Mr. Young.
Anybody interested in that?
On that, yeah.
Well, no, that'd be just a matter of either the
Yeah,
mayor
it's-
appointing, or if there's a
yeah.
volunteer and it's agreed upon by the mayor, it'd just be an appointment at this.
Anybody particularly available for that? You're available for that, Susan? You're available for that?
Yeah, we want no more than two.
Two would be
Because
the-
otherwise you gotta,
You open that door now.
Oh, we're all gonna be there.
well, then we have an issue there. with that one.
Draw a card.
Yeah.
And I understand, the council members, I mean, you also have other
obligation.
Obligation.
Well, some of us do.
So, I mean, if it's a matter of participating for part of the
I think
time.
one, in my opinion, one is plenty. I think I trust the judgment and stenography of anybody here to report accurately what happened.
We can send two if two want to go. I mean, that's twice as many questions for the thing, for him. So I'm not available that day more than likely, so do either Mike or Sean, do you want?
I'd like to go, I think Susan would like to go.
That would be, I know for myself, on the 18th that I'm busy.
Alright.
That's what release that
Tuesday.
time of year, so.
Yeah, it'd be a Tuesday.
That doesn't sound.
It's not a Wednesday,
You
so
don't-
I'm available.
You didn't seem overly excited. Are you fine with?
I'm fine with.
Okay,
with
why don't we
either.
just say that then? Expect that Susan and Sean, make sure they know the time if it changes.
I will be putting that on the calendar, and I'll send both council members an invite to that.
Very good.
As long as you're not really gonna count on my stenography.
Your repertorial skills.
And like I say, it's our intention that once we get into negotiations, that we will be providing regular updates back to the city council.
Sure, yeah. So you're not gonna take any action at the meeting, but it would be, I think it would be good to have
Yeah.
a couple of different people there for questions. And as far as any kind of action that he needs, that Mr. Young might need in us, I think we've kind of, as a council, made it clear that we are expecting to raise the rates. Probably, I can't say in accordance with the numbers that you've said that you favor, but
We've given you a variety.
you've given us a variety.
5 to 831
You gotta-
is options there.
yeah,
And it may be something different than that.
right. So,
I have another thought, if nobody on council agrees with this, then I'm fine with that too, but I was wondering if we should think about setting up a pool of money from the income of the new rates, say $50,000. That number would be between 2 and 3% of the annual take of a middling rate increase. For people who can't pay their bills, can't pay their new water bills, I don't know if we have a mechanism then to force repayment, late down the road, but we don't know how this is gonna impact people initially. And I wouldn't suggest $50,000 every year, but try to keep it up to that if we find that it's more than a few folks need. It occurred to me a day or so ago, and haven't had
One
a chance.
thing we have to be careful with, and I just caution, is that our city ordinance is very specific that we cannot give free service.
I understand.
So they're gonna get a bill, they're gonna have to pay that bill.
Right.
I mean, if it's some other mechanism to funnel that money back, but that's what council directs, but we can't just,
There'd be some sort of after-the-fact loan, I would think, but again, I haven't thought this through, and I don't know everything background that you know, but,
We can look at, again, what our ordinance says, and if there are any possibilities for that, and then report that back at a future meeting here in the next meeting or two.
Is it legal even to hold
Well-
taxpayers' money? Is that something we should investigate? Just-
That would have to be part of what we
Hold
have to
money.
look at,
I don't,
is whether we can use the
Dedicated
funds we
fund.
receive for that type of use, that I don't know, and that's something we'd have to look into.
I got my bill from the new water meters, I'm not happy
I
with
don't- yeah. And there are,
Mike,
I'm sure there's a lot of, there's other funding available as well for people in their, with their utilities and things to help them out, so. It's a good idea, we should certainly look into it, but,
I think one of the other suggestions from council was to look at what resources may be out there for those folks, and try to have a list or the information for folks that.
throw it in with the first bill or something like that, because there's state and federal programs available for that type of assistance. Maybe a good reminder would be a good gesture at the very least.
So you don't actually need any rates set tonight, you just need more or less an agreement that we know that it has to be something.
Actually, according to Jim Young, he would prefer that there would not bang the gavel on rates, so to speak, of establishing but like I said, just if, the format, the philosophy that we've used in establishing those rates, and, I mean, like I said, we've given you a range from $5 per utility per customer up to $8.31. And it may be within there, it may be outside of there. That's gonna be decided after we get through the negotiation process.
Mr. Young really just wants some teeth to negotiate with, or at least understand.
Baseline, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that the council does agree that there will be, in essence, a rate increase. The exact, degree of that, we don't know yet.
Fair enough.
Understand that too. I mean, over the last several months, we've all looked at the cost to produce, measure, with the new meters, prices that we're charging to be able to maintain and improve the systems, and then we talked about citizens' ability to pay as being a major factor that we have to consider in that as well. So I think with that, we know we have to do something. I think I've heard several say we can't kick this can down the road anymore, and I agree. We have to do something.
We'll get through one meeting without.
One
it.
meeting without it.
But it's so.
Kicking the can. Susan brought it up last week.
Comes in and
pick it up.
One of these days.
Another 5 a.m. text.
It's kind of a chicken and egg argument of whether we should set the rate first,
Thank you.
or whether we should wait for the township's rates. But we can't control the speed of those negotiations.
They go hand in hand. That's the downside, is they really do go hand in hand. And I think we want to try to develop both together. And I think it's a wise move. We've got the information to council, they're aware of it. Now's the time to bring the rate attorney in and get him involved as far as in the negotiation process.
Okay, I think we're doing well, and you don't need any particular action from us. Just to
No,
report.
because like I said, we will be bringing back a contract. Is it the attorney time?
I just think there needs to at least be general consensus amongst council that you're gonna hire Mr. Young as the rate attorney. That was a previous recommendation that had been made to council when council voted to expend funds for Gosling Zubik in the rate study. It was recommended at that time. It was something that I support, something that Greg supports. I think we need to have somebody who's specifically trained in utility law and rate law to come in and help negotiate on our behalf. So Rich does not have a contract to present to you today for Mr. Young's services, but we need to at least know that council's agreeable to using him to help negotiate that rate with the township.
Yeah.
Because he's planning on being here on the 18th, you're not gonna be able to approve that to the 17th, but we need to know that we can move in that fashion before we decide to get him here. And
That's good.
So we need a motion on that then? I'm assuming.
I think we need at least a motion that council approves staff negotiating with Mr. Young with final approval to come on the 17th once we have the contract, but we need to kind of know that before we plan on bringing him over here on the 18th without any formal approval. So we need to have at least a general consensus that council's agreeable to that.
And if I could just add that that his contract can be reviewed by Bill before our meeting on that day, so.
I would suspect I'll probably have it the next couple of days. He'll draft something, and once I get it all of our contracts go through the city attorney.
Okay.
And Bill, would you still be involved in that process?
I will be. The only thing, I spoke with Greg earlier, and I don't know if I'll be available for the whole day on the 18th, but I do plan on being here for at least a portion of that meeting. It sounds like that, that's gonna be a strategy session, obviously. So I'll be involved in that, but Jim will be taking the lead in terms of direct negotiation with the township.
Somebody want to do that?
Motion? I move that we authorize council to negotiate, not negotiate, but to,
What Bill said?
Yeah, what Bill said.
When you don't know, just say, yeah,
So
that.
Take that action. Karen, she's
well,
ready.
She's writing it out.
please entertain Mr.
It's on
Mr.
tape.
Green, is it? What's
Yeah.
his name?
Mr. Young.
Yeah.
Young, sorry, Mr. Green Young.
Jeez.
Anyway,
I would second.
with city attorney reviewing the contract previous to hiring.
You're fine.
When you're
Second that.
second.
I already got you.
Yeah, my turn.
Third it.
You got third.
Eiler,
Yes.
Nielsen,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
Walagora.
Aye. Thank you, Rich.
You know, if there's any questions that you know, as, like I says, this involves, you come up with questions regarding what I provided you before, or as we move forward, just don't hesitate to run them through Greg or to myself directly, and I'll copy Greg on them either way.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's no new business, but before there's a motion to close, I failed to mention why I have a pig on my desk. So somebody might ask that. It's not my good luck charm or anything. It's my involvement in the fireworks, Kiss the Pig fireworks fundraiser. So any donations in the box gives me a closer chance of kissing a pig on the 14th, I think. So donate, it'll be fun. It'll be good.
A real pig?
A real live pig, yeah.
Real life pig.
That's what I heard.
And do they say exactly where you'll be kissing the pig?
That has not been established. We'll establish that when
When
firemen.
firemen vote on it.
If Fireman Andy wins, that's when we'll. So that was that plug. I'm sure we get that going. Otherwise, entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session.
Make a motion, we adjourn to closed session.
Second.
Nielsen,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
Walagora.
Aye.
Eiler.
Yes.